Hi, I'm Signe Kiesel. Lance has sent me to Ontario, California to the Hudson Essex Terraplane Western Regional Meet. Today we're going to see some really amazing cars and talk to some great people. So let's get going. Hi, I'm with Red Burke, and he has a 1919 Essex. Red, tell me a little bit about your vehicle.
Well, Hudson in 1919 decided to build a cheaper model car to compete with the Model T Ford that Henry was building. And the engineers came up with this model, and it was so much better than the Model T in those days that one year they almost outsold the Model T Ford. And like I said, it had features that were so much better, and there was only $100 difference in price. It was $100 more than the Model T, and people would buy this car rather than the Ford, and it would go faster, it had better brakes, it was more reliable and safer, and Hudson sold a lot of these cars, and the 1919 was basically the best car that Hudson has ever built.
And I understand that the Hudson name, the Essex, you know where that comes from, right?
Well, they were wanting a name that would give the car a little pizzazz or a little prestige, and one of the engineers or executives came up and he said, there's a section of England that's real exclusive sort of, and it's called Essex. He said, why don't we name it Essex? And that supposedly is the way the name Essex got attached to the car.
And how did you get attached to this car?
Well, I was in Reno to a car show, and a fella had this car restored by a man who worked for Harrow's Collection. So we bought it in Reno, and I had to go all the way home and get my trailer, go back and pick it up that next day and take it home. And we had it about 23 years.
Oh my goodness. And have you done all the restoration since on it?
It was almost in this condition when I bought it. There was no top on it, and there's quite a story about that. There was no top on it, and I started trying to find the top bows, and I was 6 years before I found them. I bought them, and my fella does my upholstery on all my cars, built the top and put it on. And there was one or two other small parts missing that took me several years to find, because these cars are pretty rare. They're scarce.
And I understand that there's some uniqueness with your engine too. It's a good story there.
This engine was designed and built especially for this car, and it's a four-cylinder, and it's what they called an F-head, and the intake valves are in the cylinder head and the exhausts are in the block. A very successful engine, and Hudson carried it on into their big cars for several years, and some other companies built cars with the F-head engines. The normal engine is called L-head, and it has all the valves in the block and a flat head, but this has the tappets and all up on the top. And a very strange thing here, the oil pump in this motor only pumps 2 pounds of pressure, and the oil goes up for the connecting rods to splash through, and they provided no way for the oil to come up to the tappets on the top of the cylinder head, so they put these little valve cups on top that you pull up and put an oil can in there and fill them full of oil, and it drips down on the rockers to keep them from sticking and freezing up. It's very unique.
How often do you have to fill them up on top?
Well, the owner's manual says if you're driving real hard and fast, you should do it every 100 miles. Fill those little cups with oil. But if you're just cruising around town, you can go 200 to 300 miles before you have to fill those little cups.
Well, thank you very much, Red. I really love your car. It's got a great, interesting engine, and thanks a lot for sharing your story with us. I'm with Val Smith, and Val Smith has a 1929 Hudson. Val, tell me how you acquired this beautiful car.
This car originated in Grants Pass, Oregon. The family bought it in 1929, and the gentleman that owned it was a pharmacist. The car maintained its life there in Oregon for a lengthy period of time until an individual by the name of Billy Wilson purchased the car and started the restoration on it. He completed the car. The car then remained in Oregon for a short period of time and then was moved down to California with a new owner. The new owner had the car, did a few little changes on it, had a financial difficulty, and I was able to acquire the car and finish up the restoration of the things that he had not completed at that time. The car is unique in its own way. It's a Rumble Seat Coupe. Everything on it is as original as possible, including the color combination. The mechanical mechanism on it is all original, and it's just a wonderful car.
Yeah, let's talk about the colors. I understand in 1929 that's what they were kind of famous for. The Hudsons came out with some brilliant colors that year.
In 1929, on the second series, they introduced what they called the brilliant colors. They were in competition with Duesenberg, Cords, and other cars that were at that time displaying very brilliant type colors. One of the unique things about dealership ownership at that time was that if you ordered a car and you went to the dealership, you may see it in the blue and the cream, as you see here, or you may see it in the green and cream, which they painted half the car one color and half the car the other color. And the reason for that was a lot of dealers could not afford 2 or 3 models, and for 3 months they'd show one side of the car. The next 3 months they'd turn it around and show the other side of the car, which then changed the colors itself. If you ordered the car saying, I want the car blue and cream, then they went back and painted the other half of the car.
Wow, that's pretty cool, and it's very cost effective, like you said.
Absolutely, absolutely.
And tell me about the wheels on this side here. I understand they're very unique too.
The wheels, as you see on this car here, are kind of unique in its own way, and were referred to as circus wheels at that time because of the unusual decoration that matched the car. There was options of wire wheels, natural colored oak wheels that were available, and then again to the circus wheels.
And what first attracted you to buying this beautiful Hudson?
I've been a Hudson member since early 1981, and I've always liked the orphan type cars, which myself, I am an orphan, and I've always pushed myself towards the orphan or unusual automobiles.
And tell me about the back. I understand the back has a special name.
Well, this car also has a rumble seat in it, and for those older folks out there that remember, a lot of these were referred to as mother-in-law seats. The rear window would roll down where you had a communication with the person riding in the rumble seat. If you got tired of listening to them, you just rolled the window back up.
And you've done most of the restoration since you've had it, right?
I've done some of the restoration since I've had it, just upgrading it, and I think every old car, whoever owns it, always puts their own little personality into this thing.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much, Val Smith.
Thank you very much.
I'm standing with Fred Roth, who is the proud owner of this very rare 1954 Hudson Italia. Fred, tell me how you came to acquire this beautiful car.
Well, I have a collection of American sports cars that were built in the 50s, and I already owned one of these Hudsons, and I have a website, americansportscars.com, and I had somebody contact me through the website telling me that they had this particular car, and I knew the car immediately when they described it to me, and it was the last of the series built. They only built 25 of these, and this was the last one. And so the guy shot me a price, and I said, I'll come over and look at it. And he said to me, gee, I didn't think you were going to come with a trailer. And I said, well, you know, you never know, you might as well come with a trailer. We made a deal and got it home, and it is probably the best unrestored original Italia left around.
Wow, and I understand you also have another one, is that correct?
Yes, I have another one that's Concours restored, and it's going to Pebble Beach this year, and it was kind of the centerpiece of my collection originally.
And are you going to do any further restoration to this one?
No, I'm going to leave this one as it is because this is so original and nothing's ever been done to it that I thought it was interesting for people to see exactly the way they were when they were built.
And Hudson, did they make a lot of the sports cars or not that many?
No, actually this car was built to make their designer Frank Spring happy, who had been very upset with Hudson because all the money that was supposed to go toward designing a new car was built to build this little car behind me here, the Hudson Jet. So to make him happy, they put him in a back room and let him do this design and said, we'll take this Hudson Jet and turn it into this Hudson Italia. And that's what happened. They sent 25 of these cars to Italy, where they cut the bodies off and they put them on these on the chassis, put this body on it.
So is it an actual sports car in the sense that it has good horsepower and torque and that kind of stuff?
Well, let's say it's just a sports car, but it's more in looks than anything else because it has a small engine in it, and it was an art design more than anything. But I consider it an American sports car because it has all the trappings of that. Body was built by Touring of Italy, who built Lamborghinis and Ferraris and so on at the time. So this car competes with those cars usually.
Wow. And did they ever make a convertible model of it?
They built a little model of it in a convertible, but it never got built as a car.
Well, thank you very much, Fred. It is beautiful, and I've never seen it, so it's certainly very rare. I'm with Walt Mordenti. Walt, you are the proud owner of the 1953 Hudson Hornet. Is that correct?
That is correct.
This is a beautiful green car. Did you do all the restoration yourself?
Yes, it took me 5 years to finish what you see sitting here.
And you take it all the way across the country. That's what people are saying.
Yes, this is what you call an ocean-to-ocean traveler.
Oh my gosh! And where do you take it from?
From San Francisco right to Maine.
I bet you get a lot of attention and questions on the road, huh?
If we stop at the rest areas, it takes us at least an hour to get out.
And, you know, the rumor here is that you're the technical guru for all of the Hudsons. Is that correct?
Well, I try to help as much as I can. But the reason why everybody inquires about me is because I started working Hudsons in 1934. And when I tell them that, they kind of look at me funny. And then I tell them I'm 85 years old. And Hudson's has been my life.
And why is it such an important part of your life? What do you love about Hudson so much?
When my father came to this country, he went to work for a Hudson dealer. And it's been in our family.
How many Hudsons have you owned? Do you even know?
I would have to take a guess, but it'd be well over 50.
Let's talk about this Hudson Hornet right here. I understand that you did a lot of restoration to it. Tell me a little more about that.
The restoration I did is what you would call a complete frame-off restoration. Everything on this car was disassembled, cleaned, painted, re-chromed, reupholstered, and everything, and then assembled piece by piece to put it back together to what you see sitting here.
And the color green, is that a color that was common in that time?
That is an original color for Hudson's for 53. This is what they call surf green. The roof is meadow green metallic.
Well, thank you very much, and enjoy your car, and happy cruising across the country.
Thank you.
I'm with Bill Albright, who is the owner of the 1952 Hudson Hornet. Bill, tell me a little bit about this car. How did you come to acquire it?
I took this car in on trade at my Hudson dealership in Fontana, and we did a full frame-up restoration on it. Engine, transmission, wiring, paint, chrome, interior, and just finished it. It's a great driving car, and it has in the original colors of Hudson, Texas tan body and a Boston ivory roof.
And I noticed the hood ornament is a little bit different from the 1953.
Well, yes, they changed the hood ornament and some of the other trim pieces each year. Hudson was an independent and couldn't afford to do a complete body restyling every year, so the ornaments were the basis for their changes. Each year has a little different trim on it.
Now, I know Hudson's have been a big part of your life for a very long time. Could you tell me the history of Hudson?
Well, Hudson started in 1909. J.L. Hudson, the owner of the Hudson department store in Detroit, put up the money to a few enterprising young fellows, and they started out building a 1909 Roadster, which they made about 1,000 of them the first year, and they sold like hotcakes. And the company went from there till 1954, when they merged with Nash to form American Motors. In 1929, Hudson was the third largest seller behind Ford and Chevrolet.
Wow, and then what happened after that?
Well, the Depression really hurt them. Mainly, and they barely survived through the Depression years, but they came back strong in the 50s with this step-down version, which they introduced in 1948. It was revolutionized the industry with the unibody design, and of course in 51 they were NASCAR champions. Marshall Teague, Herb Thomas, Frank Mundy, a lot of the drivers won all. In 52 they won 27 out of 32 NASCAR races, so can we do that today?
Yeah, that's pretty impressive. And I understand you're part of the club.
I've been a member since 1971, about 35 years, which is half of my lifetime, and I've been restoring Hudsons. I've probably put over 600 Hudsons through my shop since 1971.
Wow. And do you mind turning around for a second so the viewers can see your great jacket here? Forget the whales, save the Hudsons. That just says it all. There's some devotion for you.
You bet. We love our Hudsons, and we're all having a good time at this meet here. We've got almost 75, close to 80 cars here today, and we're all enjoying it.
Well, thank you very much, Bill.
My pleasure.
That's it. From Ontario, California, I'm Signe Kiesel, and we'll see you next time.